Future be trapping.
hard. Work hard, play hard, work hard, play hard.
Work.
Hey, how you doing, little mama? Let me whisper in your ear. Here I go. Here I go. Here I go. Here I go. Here I go.
All right. Let's get started. Having a little fun. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Sunday on a fun day. As always, welcome to the community and culture. I am Miss Uplifting T, and I am coming to you this Sunday from the great state of Texas. I hope everyone is doing well today. We had a little bit of rough weather here in the South, so if you made it through, please leave us a comment and let us know that you are safe and sound where you are. So, as you can see from the disclaimer, this week we are going to be covering on our Chat with the Sister, Share with the Sister series, entrepreneurship, and what kind of difficulties African Americans have when we are attempting to access capital. So if you are new to this space, thank you for joining me. If this is your first time, if you are a new subscriber, again, I am so glad that you are able to join us. We are on our road to 1,000 subscribers. I started this journey at the beginning of the year, and I am thankful for every single person that spends time in our space. So if you are new here and this is your first time joining us for a live, please like, share, and subscribe if you can. The YouTube algorithm allows for extended reach of all content on the platform if you are willing to watch a few minutes longer, or if possible, if you could stay until the end of the video, that would be appreciated if you are a part of the replay gang. So thank you. I have some celebrations to hand out today. No, these are not paid sponsorships. No, I am not getting any money to promote these platforms or channels. I am just simply a supporter of the hard work that the content creators do here on the YouTube. So, congratulations to Braylon's virtual tour, and congratulations to Glam Rocks. Both of them achieved milestones this week, and I just so happened to be stopping by their channels at the time when those milestones were either celebrated or achieved. And if I can do anything to support my fellow content creators as they are reaching their milestones, I think Berlin is celebrating currently. I know Glamrox has a celebration coming up soon. So to them, I am so excited for them. Congratulations to you guys. You work very hard. People don't know how much research and time goes into the editing, the production, the merch, the events, all of it. It is a lot of work. And so I celebrate what you do and I celebrate how hard you work. So congratulations to them as they continue their march to 10K. That is a huge milestone here on the platform. So congratulations to them. Make 10K be ever in your favor and closer than you think. So tonight, share with the sister. It is open mic. If you did not get a chance to see the pin, there it is. You can join the channel. Join the panel up here tonight. I want you to share your opinions because we're talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking about access to capital. I hear a lot of people talking a lot about money. I hear a lot of people spend hours and hours and hours on their stream talking about money. And I don't try to join those spaces because, we do growth, not gossip here at the community, and we are for the culture. So we ask serious, fact based, research based questions here. And some of the arguments, people just want to be loud, people just want to be wrong, people just want to be offended. And we are about safer, smarter, and stronger communities here. So we don't join those spaces and we do not engage in those antics. But we're going to look at some of the reasons minority borrowers are having trouble accessing capital. So it says, a year ago, the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies surveyed 1,200 small businesses across the country with a focus on Black and Latino business owners. Their findings should be a wake up call to anyone looking to expand entrepreneurship in America. Most notably, a whopping 6 in 10 Black businesses owners faced challenges obtaining capital even before the pandemic began. So if we call that the before time, so even before 2020, Black businesses, Latino businesses were having issues accessing capital. That is almost a full 60%. And over a third of Latino owners face the same issues. But notice they didn't face it at nowhere near almost twice as many African American business owners are struggling than even our Latino counterparts. Business owners of colors are more likely to struggle accessing startup funding, growth funding, and capital with affordable interest rates. This is by no means the only proof highlighting how minority entrepreneurs struggle to secure the financing they need. According to the Federal Reserve, Black entrepreneurs are denied loans at nearly twice the rate of white business owners. And despite seeking pandemic related assistance at similar rates as white business owners, minority owners were more likely to receive none of the financing they applied for or experienced a funding shortfall. So when I listen to a lot of the people who are in this sector and space where they talk to people, specifically they claim to be business owners, specifically they claim to be successful business owners, and they have very um, shall we say, strict or strident views when it comes to fiscal and monetary policy. They have very few answers for why this exists. Or if they acknowledge the fact that this does exist, the onus is on those of us who are aware of the inequity, who quote unquote understand the rules of the game to simply play and win. And I think that puts a huge onus on the people who are contributing to a system and then who are not getting their due rate of return. And that is something those people should understand. You have no choice but to invest in the system if you are waking up and going to sleep, pee and pooing on this land. So why should you not get the same level of parity and equity? And then if it's not happening, the question is why. And if it's intentional, then why aren't we fixing it? There's some fundamental questions that need to be asked and answered. And they have been. It says historically, lending in low income and minority communities have been marred by unjust acts of overt discrimination. Despite today's reformed views, the racially motivated vandalism and avoidance of businesses seen throughout the country during the pandemic, particularly in Asian American communities, show that bias still harms financial security. Nevertheless, the importance of small minority businesses endures. They play a significant role in stabilizing their communities by providing jobs, filling gaps in access to spaces, goods, and services. That is an important part, and restoring life to underserved communities. So, how do we get increased access to capital? And so, that particular report looked at 5 barriers to lending among diverse business owners, where it says filling gaps in accessing basic foods and services. So many of our communities are experiencing what we call food deserts, or they experience healthcare deserts. There are no pharmacies. There are very limited primary care, pediatrician, geriatric care. These are things that people need to see on almost a consistent, regular basis, and those things don't exist in the community. If you are not helping startups get the funding that they need, then they do not provide the services that the community needs. And so what you end up with is what we call vulture capitalism, where they come in, is big box, big names who drain, provide marginal at best services. We've all seen the new venture, the new strip mall, the new gas station, the new whatever coming to our communities. They have a big old grand opening, and in 6 months, 8 months, 6 years down the road, the service is marginal, if not downright deplorable. And so one of the reasons why this is important is we're going to see what it looks like if the people in the community do not have business ownership, and what that ultimately translates into jobs. And I want to thank the Brookings Institute for being the people that put this together. And I will put the links in the description so anybody who wants access to the information can. It says, what if black businesses reach parity with all businesses? It says there are 446 black businesses in the Jackson metro area, accounting for basically 5% of employer businesses. If black businesses accounted for 50.8% of employer firms, that's equivalent to their population size, there would be 8,732 more black businesses. I'm going to let that chart sit there. Currently, there are less than 500. Half the residential population of Jackson, Mississippi is black, but half the businesses. So what they're telling you is there are roughly 20,000 businesses in Jackson, and only 500 of them are black. And so when people tell me that you don't want to participate in how the decisions are being made that allow you to access capital that can do something about this, because I can guarantee you that if we even cut that number in half, let's say instead of 446, that was 4,460. We're only halfway there. That means 25% of the businesses in Jackson would be black owned. Still only servicing a community that is 50% black. And you wonder why Jackson, Mississippi, and places across the Deep South have water crises and lead crises. And you have places in Mississippi where, or Alabama, where you can literally not hold elections for 60 years. And then you would tell people that what they do doesn't matter. The choices that they make doesn't matter. But this is what the current status quo is, and it's been like this for literally decades. So don't tell me that we can't make different choices to get different outcomes. I'm sorry, I don't believe you. We've made more progress, but there is still so much to go. And I am of ancestry. I just buried my grandmother at 94. She was born in a house that didn't even have a bathroom. She literally grew up without houses. She grew up picking cotton in the 1950s. Let me say that again. They were still picking cotton in Louisiana in the 1940s and 50s. And my grandmother, who I just kissed for the last time in February, who was born in the 1930s, picked cotton still in Louisiana in the 1950s, a la every textbook you have ever seen. The reason why Mississippi looks like this is not an accident. These are intentional choices that are being made by policyholders, by people in power, specifically by the Mississippi legislature. That is why this looks like this. Money is coming into that state, staring and blinking my eyes in Hall of Fame quarterback stealing snap money. But when that money is mismanaged, this is what you get. Instead of 9,000 businesses, you only have 400. And I'm going to quickly go through the numbers because, like I tell you, we're doing this series. If you didn't get a chance to catch last night's live, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a little view over there. And I'll put a link in the description of where we're going once a week across the South and looking at what is happening currently in the South. If 50% of all Black Americans live in the South, then we need to talk about what is going on every week in the South, because that is where people who look like me, who love like me, live. Here it is, Birmingham, Alabama. That's it is 30% Black. If a third of the businesses, just a third, manage that number of business ownership matched the population, 31.6%, there would be 8,000 businesses instead of 600. There would be 9,000 businesses in Birmingham. There would be 8,000 businesses in Baton Rouge, a city that is 36.8% Black. There are barely 600. So don't tell me the choices that we make don't matter. This is a policy choice. This is something that happens in your state legislature year in and year out, and you don't fix it. And you can fix it. But when we don't fix it, this continues to be the status quo. And let me put my own home on blast down here to the Lone Star. There are 4,000 businesses, black owned businesses in Houston. Now, I need you to remember Houston metro area is literally the fourth or fifth largest metropolitan area in the entire country. We have about 4 million, 5 million people that live around here. So to have 4,000 roughly black businesses, looking at 1%, even if we were at the 20% of our accounted for population, that number wouldn't be 4,000, it would be 25,000. And this is why we say if you cannot start a business, you cannot grow a business and be a business owner, which is why the first week we wanted to focus on access to capital. But I wanted to show you why, no matter where you are, access to capital is important. At a January 17th event, Treasury Secretary Janet Layton, this is from a few years ago, from Reconstruction to Jim Crow to present day, our economy has never worked fairly for Black Americans or really any American of color. According to the Federal Reserve in 2019, the median net worth of white families was $188,200 or 7.8 times that of their black peers at $24,100. That wealth gap translates into so many other disparities, including business ownership, which is heavily influenced by family and individual wealth. In 2019, there were 5 million employer firms. That means businesses that have more than one employee. Only 2% were black owned, even though we are 14% of the population, roughly at that time. So we're going to go through and look at some charts here about even in areas where you do see large numbers of black populations, our ability to get the capital, to open the businesses, to have the success, to grow, to weather the normal business cycles, to have venture capitalists come in, to have seed money from our families and individual wealth and stock options. We are just not able to have that. And so that's one of the things that I find very important in having this conversation is when we're talking about access to capital. Thank you so much. I mean, I love my creative family. When we talking about access to capital, it is very important for us to look at not only where we live, but what is actually happening in those areas. So we're going to look at two tables right quick. So the first one here shows metro areas with the highest representation of black employer businesses in 2019. So these were the number of businesses. This is the percentage of the population, and that's the percentage of business ownership. Even in places where we have incredibly high population, like a place like Washington, D.C., there are very few places that have double digits. Charlotte, North Carolina, you're talking about almost 40% of that area, and yet they barely crack 10%. And then when we look at the next chart, you have to account for the fact that most of the places on the next chart are literally some of the most densely populated areas in the country. So when you look at the actual number, sheer volume of businesses that are black owned, of course, you're going to see New York, Washington, Atlanta, LA, Miami, Chicago, Houston. Shout out to my home, DFW. Shout out to the people up 45, St. Louis and Philly. Like this list was going to be a given because these are like the most populated places in America, period. But even when you look at how many people, New York has 20% black population, only 3% of their black businesses. Even if you look at somewhere like Atlanta, We call it Chocolate City. That city is almost 40% black, and yet still in 2019, less than 10% of the businesses are black owned. That's an issue because that means a lot of the businesses that have black faces in Atlanta have white funders. And that's just the fact of the matter. They are being greenlit. It's crazy. And so when we don't invest in getting the access to capital, that's why when I did, and that's why I split entrepreneurship into 2 weeks. I had to look at how do we get started? How do we get access to funding? Because if these are the numbers, we have to fix some of the inequities in the system. So it says black and white access to capital among minority startups. So this was nice. This was from Stanford. It says we use confidential and restricted access data from Kaufman Firm survey and Dun and Bradstreet. So if you have ever registered your business, shout out to all my LLC, Twitter, IG, whatever they calling it down there at the Bluebird they used to be. Um, Dun and Bradstreet is one of the numbers that is like your business is. That's one of your social security numbers, I guess you could say, for your business. But that data is very highly controlled and very restricted, as this publication date is from February 2017. So if you are literally trying to do government contracting, if you're going for business loans at traditional funding lending institutions, you're probably going to have a DMB number, and you're also probably going to have different little credit things that where you actually establish your business credit outside of your personal credit. It says black. So yeah, Stanford got the T. Black owned businesses are persistently smaller and face more difficulty in raising external capital. Large differences in credit worthiness are important for explaining the difference, but even controlling for credit worthiness, persistent differences in perceptions of treatment by banks are also important. Spatial variation in banking conditions and historical attitudes towards race are consistent with racial bias. Now, I didn't make this information up. They went to the people. Hello, I am so excited. Let me go ahead on and put my face up right quick because I have to say something about this because I did this at the beginning and this is really important to me because I ain't gonna cry, but to my people who have poured into me, I just want to say thank you so very much and congratulations on your success. If you are a tourer, I am so excited for you. It is such a hard thing as a content creator to hit that milestone. So I just want to say I am so proud of you. And Glam Rocks, I was on her live earlier this week and she celebrated 2,500 as well. So I just want to say shout out to all my creators who are doing the thing that is such a hard thing to do, and people don't understand how hard y'all work, how much time and money and research y'all put into these. And so I definitely wanted to stop and say thank you, thank you, thank you. Like that is an amazing thing. And what I told him earlier when I was in his live is I'm always excited for my neighbor because when God is blessing my neighbor, that means he is in my neighborhood. So it says, let's look at the systemic impact of racism on Black entrepreneurship because it literally just cannot be understated. It absolutely cannot be understated how it really has been a targeted and systemic effort into why we have such a difficult time accessing capital. That means if you can't get the capital, you can't start the business. To truly understand the challenges faced by Black entrepreneurs today, we must first examine the historical context in which our businesses operate. For centuries, Black individuals and communities have been subjected to systemic racism and discrimination, which has led to a profound impact on their ability to thrive economically. Having access to capital is the biggest challenge for Black entrepreneurs. I did not pick this topic out of a hat. In fact, according to the Federal Reserve, Black entrepreneurs are denied loans at nearly twice the rate of white business owners. One of the most significant challenges that our entrepreneurs face is pervasive stereotypes. These negative perceptions can hinder our ability to secure that funding, attract customers, have access to markets, and build professional relationships. We often have to work twice as hard to prove themselves and overcome the perceived notions that others may have about their abilities and their qualifications. At the same time, these stereotypes and biases also exist within communities of colors and between individuals of colors, and that adds another layer of navigation for entrepreneurs. I heard somebody on a live earlier say, Black people never tip. That broke my heart. Number one, because I'm Black and I tip. My mama tipped, my grandma tipped, my grandpa definitely tipped. And so it was just really heartbreaking to know that he could have a negative experience. It was a waste staff person talking about a party of 30 came and they left an $8 tip. So the first thing I had in that particular scenario, I was like, well, you're at a restaurant that doesn't charge automatic gratuity, strange in the 21st century. I wish I had my sound for stop the cap. But even aside from that, you didn't have people that helped you out. You had to wait a 30 top by yourself. Like, baby, where are you working at? But that was beside the point. But that one negative experience, he said, caused him to not provide quality service to future African American customers that came in his restaurant. But I can guarantee you, he has had other bad experiences with other bad customer groups. But he would 100% not stop providing first rate service to those customer groups based on a single interaction or even a series of interactions with representatives from that group. And he definitely wouldn't get on the internet and scream about it on TikTok. And so that's one of the things that I genuinely had a problem with in his particular statement. And then I look at things like this from Black Enterprise. 56% of Black entrepreneurs say gaining access to capital is a lingering challenge, lessening their ability to grow. So once again, in 2021, so here we are from 2019 to 2021, this has been a persistent problem. I don't care what decade, generation, century you pick, this has been a persistent problem. And trust me, we are still living in the best of times and not the worst of times, because you don't want to go back and read about the 1873 bank runs or about the Freedman Bank. So instead of giving these people 40 acres and a mule, they told them to go out and work and earn money and put it in this bank. And then they put white trustees over the bank. And then when the bank failed, they told the people for 6 months to wait and get their deposits out. And so what was once 30, 40 million was like 2, 3 million by the time they were able to get pennies out on the dollar, and nobody went to jail. And all these people were out. What was, if you account, do the math, carry the one, add the two, that $30 million would have been about three quarters, 700, 800 million at that time. So you capitalize that from 1873 forward with all, yeah, okay. So now you're starting to see why this is a problem. And the people that are in these financial spaces that I hear talking so greasy and so slick and so stupid never want to acknowledge those kind of inequities. And then remember, that's 1873, because we don't talk about what happens in the bank runs in the 1910s, and in the theft of the land and the running the people off and burning them out, and how land in your home and land ownership, even the people that were able to work and scrap and get the land, when you burned out of it, I mean, it's gone. But we don't talk about that either. It says the report was a part of an extensive survey of nearly 1,050 small businesses with an annual revenue of 100,000 to 500 million. Some 307 business owners, about 30% of all respondents, were interviewed by Bank of America. The study amid the COVID pandemic concerns Black entrepreneurs are thinking about include political environment and health care costs. 82% of entrepreneurs of color say they must work harder to gain the same success as compared to their peers. And so it's not even a secret to them that they have to work hard. They know it. So let's talk about the pandemic. Okay, so the pandemic comes along. Does it get better for us? This information was already known. Like, the Fed knew it, the Federal Reserve knows it, federal government knows it, the IRS knows it, Dun and Bradstreet knows it. So even our credit reporting agencies that are monitoring this, that are still dinging us for being less credit worthy, even though they're the ones collecting the data on people and telling them that we're uncredit worthy. Even they know it, and yet, okay, so let's see what happens during the pandemic. In March of 2020, Congress passed the CARE Act. As a part of that act, we were all supposed to disperse $659 billion for giving loans to small business through the PPP. Eligible businesses receive loans to cover payroll and certain other expenses. While PP loans were an important economic cushion, key flaws meant that the program was largely regressive and not targeted to firms with the greatest need, particularly in communities of color. One paper estimated that only 23% to 34% of PPP dollars went directly to workers who would have otherwise lost their job. So a full third. The other two-thirds flowed to businesses and shareholders. Do shareholders sound like people that were struggling during the pandemic when you and I were going around looking for Lysol and Clorox wipes? Were those the people that were going to lose their job during the pandemic? Were those the people in the Kroger and the Publix getting the COVID and going to the ICUs, the shareholders, and I'm glad it's not the people, including creditors and suppliers of PPP receiving funds. So those are the people that were pushing the paper. So I don't think those people were down at the Publix and the Kroger either worrying about the Lysol and the Clorox wipes and trying to. Additionally, the first round of PPP loans gave relief only to employer firms. So remember what we talked about, that out of the 5 million businesses in the United States, only 2% of our businesses are employer firms because the vast majority of our businesses are sole proprietorships. Think about all your barbershops. Think about your car washes. Think about your small restaurants. A huge portion of our businesses. Think about your content creators. Those are single person LLCs. It takes them a while to be able to grow, to be able to expand, to have employees. And even if they're subcontracted now through 1099, those are not considered employees. Therefore, here we go. Disproportionately disregarded Black owned businesses, 95% are non employer firms compared to 78% of white owned firms. And in that 78% is the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. That's your Enrons, your Googles, your Apples, all that. That's enough. When Black businesses did receive the loans, the funding arrived much later and was substantially less than what was offered to their counterparts. Like, no matter what turn you make, this is going to continue to happen. And that is a direct result of policy. This is not happening by accident. These are not just glitches in the matrix. So let's look at the venture capital side. Okay, so if we say that, okay, the government has always been, historically trash, and unresponsive and slow to move and a lagging indicator and not a leading indicator, I'll concede that. Let's talk to the people that's on the front lines. Here we go. These are people with the money, right? These are the people that are doing this. It says the issue is not starting the business, but being able to keep the business afloat, being able to help businesses grow and scale over time, said Brandon Andrews, co-founder of Gauge, an AI-enabled mobile market research platform. It says in the first half of 2021, just 1.2% of total U.S. venture dollars went to Black entrepreneurs. Okay, so now these are people these are McKinsey Scotts that's out here throwing money like, it's no tomorrow. And these are the Gates Foundations of the world. These are the people that just got, money to blow. The dearth of funding can be attributed to all the isms and biases that have been built over the 400 years that we've been a part of the country, says Gail Jennings O'Brien, who co-founded Woke Star Fund, an early stage investment fund that invests in tech innovation ventures led by women of color. But the discrimination is subtle now rather than overt. It looks, and this was here. This got us. And if you are a small business owner, if you have gone to any one of these venture capital, elevator pitch, any of those kind of spaces, you felt this in your soul. It looks like this. Hey, great job. That's an awesome idea. Keep coming. Keep going. I think that is a great idea. Come back to me, in a year from now, and I'll see how you're doing. And hey, here's my card. Let's keep in touch. If you are a small business owner and you have ever heard anything like that, and you are a part of the replay gang, please let me know in the comments and in the chat. Please let me know in the comments and in the chat. It's not just a lack of funding for promising startups. It's a lack of sustained support for micro businesses that make up the lifeblood of the community. Just think about if your barbershop could go and get a $5,000 loan, or a $6,000 loan, or a $10,000 loan, or a $2,500 loan because they wanted to do a back to school event, or they wanted to expand or redo the floors, or maybe do some landscaping so they can improve the value. But they do have That is their primary income. What does it look like when you increase the access through traditional and non-traditional? Because we talked about the government, they over there being trash, and look here, go to the private sector over here being trash too. So these are just some of the things I want people to think about when you're telling people that the choices that they make don't matter. They do. And this is going to be where we stop for tonight because I've kept you long enough. And I appreciate you guys for rocking with me on a Sunday night because I know this is usually our time to relax, relate, release. I know some of y'all were celebrating 420 yesterday. And so I am going to table this for when we come back next week and talk about entrepreneurship in rural areas because I hear a lot of people talk about that opportunity zone. Yeah. That's a hot topic around here in these spaces. About that opportunity zone. And we're gonna talk about that opportunity zone money too. So if you would like to join the panel, the link is in the description. And I will hang out here for a second. And if anybody wants to join, I will drop the link again. Uh, and it is, if you scroll up in the comments, it should be up there. But if you want to come on up, you are more than welcome. But I appreciate you all for joining me tonight. It has been a pleasure to rock with you. And one of the reasons why I want to be a sister that listens is because this is who I think the community really is. That's who the community is. And if I believe that that's who the community is, and I believe that this is important in the community, then we have to be willing to listen. We have to be willing to share. We have to be willing to explore these things in fact based ways. So I thank you for joining the show tonight. Please like, share, and sub. Please like, share, and sub. And again, congratulations to all my creator people. You guys are phenomenal. I will be leaving the links in the description. And I hope you have a wonderful night. And as I tell you, every time I get a chance to spend a little time with you here on the YouTube, I hope blessings chase you down. I hope trouble never finds your door. I need you to level up because there is power and purpose within you that the community needs. If you get a chance to be kind, please do that. And if you can give grace, there are lots of hurting people out there. Have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday evening and have a great week next week. Be blessed.